put the clock on me because I will recognize myself for 5 minutes. Witnesses, once again, thank you for coming forward and your testimony. Ms. Igoroff, you're an American citizen. You immigrated from Brazil. How does it make you feel seeing all these folks just walk across the border? Tell us about your journey.
I grew up in Brazil, in Latin America, so I understand why people want to come here. It's a great country. I understand the desire, but I think most immigrants are appalled about what's happening, right?
You are. And they're saying this is not the way we did it.
I am appalled, and my family, we have had every type of visa that you can imagine as a student, and then going through the process. As I mentioned, my husband's family became refugees last year. They had to wait for many, many months for the process, even though they are both 85 years old and lost everything during the war in Ukraine. And so I really think we need to follow the process and
follow the process. Do you feel like they're held to a different standard? Is there one standard in education for people who have crossed here illegally versus people who are not here illegally?
Absolutely. My husband's grandmother lost everything, had to cross Ukraine under fire of the Russian army, had to wait because she didn't have a passport, and we had to go through the entire process, go to the embassy multiple times in Vienna where she was waiting for the process. We follow the process, and again, people are just crossing the border. I
gotcha. No, I know it can be very frustrating. It's like people cutting in line. Nobody likes a skipper when we're in line somewhere. Ms. Rodriguez, you had talked about being a border state, but now we know every state is a border state. When we talked earlier this morning, we had talked about different standards, that migrant children, illegals, are held to a different standard than normal enrollees. Will you talk about that? Is that something?
Yeah, so I think one of the things to remember, I've spent a lot of time along the Texas-Mexico border, and I picked up documentation and IDs from both adults and young juveniles and children that were dumped as they crossed illegally into the country. And so then the children in particular, once they come in contact with a federal agency like HHS, they then create this documentation based off of unverifiable information, because at that point, these individuals, including the children, are who they say they are. There's no way to truly verify it. So then that information is then used to enroll the students into schools. But yet, as an American, even when I enrolled my children and even switching school districts, we had to jump through hoops to provide documentation of vaccination status, education, and things like that.
So we just take their word for it. In my own district, there was talk of a student who claimed to be 18 but looked 26 or 27. Does that happen a lot?
Well, and that's the thing, is that we really don't know until something happens, right, where then it is brought to the forefront. There's no way to truly verify it, and that should really be concerning for everyone. Very
good. No, thank you so much. We know California, Ms. Barkey, California is a border state, but now we know every state is a border state, and we had a great time talking this morning too. What could we do? What could California do, which also spends per student one of the highest in the nation of what it spends, but you have to question, does it get its money's worth? What could we do if we didn't have the illegal immigration problem in California?
I believe if we really strengthened our immigration policy that we could achieve more in California. We are at the bottom. We're in the bottom of almost every metric. And the resources that we put towards illegal immigrants, it is costing our children. It's costing every children. I have compassion for every child, and we're hurting all of them. So I would really like to see a stronger border policy so that all of our children could really succeed.
So it's tough, though, when someone doesn't speak the language. Are resources, or is there a separate class for somebody to have to even teach them English, but yet you still have to make sure our own kids get instructed? Is that correct?
Yes, it really takes from classroom time, because in the younger grades, everyone is together in a classroom. So when you have children that are significantly behind, and the immigrant children are significantly behind in English language and math, 85% in math, and I believe 60 in English language, or I may have that confused, but basically they're considerably behind our own students, and it does drag down the entire classroom and takes resources from the whole class when you're having to manage an entire classroom with children at different levels, often language barriers and things like that the teacher must deal with.
Very good. True, false, Miss Egeroff, true or false, in New York, you had to be fully vaccinated before you were able to come to school. Unless you were an illegal immigrant, then you could come. Is that true or false? Put your mic on. I think you said true. That's
Yes,
true?
it is true. The mayor waived all vaccines for illegal migrants.
Thank you very much. Now, I yield to the ranking member for 5 minutes for questions. Ranking Member Bamini.